Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Season 2 finale of Poker Face. A great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. This was a hell of an episode. Some amazing twists and turns that I did not see coming, and it was so good. But kind of immediately picking up where the last episode left off, feels very befitting that Natasha Lyonne would direct this episode. So that's really interesting. But yeah, it's like, okay, so what do? We have no choice but to go to Beatrix, but they do, turn on the services to the phone again, like whether it's like taking off airplane mode or whatever. But immediately Luca's calling, so he tells them like, yo, what's going on? It's like the iguana. The fact of the matter is, proficient serial killer or hitman who is gonna follow you to Hasp. Which this actually leads into something I want to talk about maybe a little bit later on. Well, I can get to it soon enough, but I'll wait. Essentially, I love, Charlie's like, okay, break it down to me, explain it to me. And he's like, I got a video to show you. She's like, what are you showing me? He's like, it's prosthetics. She's like, how am I supposed to see what that is? And Alex is like, I can see what it is. So it's like, okay, so this killer is able to disguise himself to look like anyone. And it's like, yeah, that's where my mind started immediately go like, you don't think they're going to do this. I was like, it's not till later in the episode that I start really, because it never even crossed my mind last episode. I'll go ahead and tell you. I got nervous for a bit. I was like, are we going to find out that Alex isn't Alex? But I was like, when could he have had the time to swap out with her? But I noted it last episode. The last time we see the killer, the iguana, you can't see this because I'm recording just audio, but I'm putting up quotes, was when he was basically when he knocks Alex out. That's the last time chronologically we've seen him. And so I was like, could he have switched out with Alex in that time frame? I don't know. Because it's actually really interesting because it comes up later on, and it's something to note. That's what kind of confused me too, was like the iguana could lie. The quote-unquote iguana couldn't lie to Charlie because Charlie ran into him and he said something. I don't remember what it was, but he said something and she called him out. She was like, oh, that's BS. So that's what kind of confused me later on. But either way, like I said, my initial thought was like, could the iguana have already switched with Alex? Because what started making me think of that is there's a TV show called Haven, and this is kind of a spoiler, but I won't go into specifics. But that show has a supernatural spin to it, and there's a serial killer introduced in season 3. It's the main antagonist of season 3, known as a bolt gun killer. They basically kill people with a bolt gun, but basically they are kind of a shapeshifter, and they basically disguise themselves with other people, so you never know who the bolt gun killer really is. And with my theory about Alex, there's a character that happens to, and I was kind of like, I was like, oh, please don't let this be a Haven repeat, because that's one of the most heartbreaking elements to that season is one of the victims, and you're just like, oh, that sucks. I mean, there's quite a few victims you're like, oh, that sucks, but there's one in particular that really, really sucks, because it's a very similar dynamic to the Alex and Charlie of it all, that I was like, oh, man, I hope that's not going to be the case here. Like I said, I didn't fully think it, but like I said, as the episode progressed more and more, I started getting that inkling and that feeling. Like I had this sinking feeling, but obviously the FBI is trying to track Charlie's phone, and they track it to Indiana, but they're still not close enough because there's 25 safe houses in that area by the time Charlie ended the call, so they haven't narrowed it down completely. So either way, Charlie and Alex go to a rest stop because Alex is like, okay, you're right, we can't just go to Hasp because that might be falling right into the iguana's hand, so we can't do that. So let's take a beat and think about it. I thought what happened then and there, once again, I'm still debating in my head whether or not Alex is really Alex or not. But like I said, it's not till the later parts of the episode that I really started thinking that might be the case. But I was like, I'm giving the benefit of the doubt of being Alex. So when they stopped, I thought what was going to happen is Charlie was going to get out, and then Alex was going to circle back around, take the car, and try to go by herself. But it was like, well, that wouldn't make any sense because Charlie needs to be there because Beatrix would kill you on the spot if you showed up. But I thought she was going to take a chance because her life is on the line and stuff, right? So Charlie's nervous because it's like, yo, the iguana could literally be anyone. But it's like, would he be able to get this far ahead of you in this capacity? You know? And so you're just like, she's nervous and she's freaking out. Alex seems to be taking things with stride, I think, which probably should have been a telltale sign there. But then the guy did counter, like, the fact is his hand was bleeding, and because Charlie's not thinking it through, because, like, right, the guy's wound was like, it wasn't bleeding at the time, so why would he have like a bandage around his hand with fresh blood on it? That doesn't make any sense. But once again, Charlie's not thinking clearly because she's like, she's in panic mode. Hey, I gotta protect my friend. She's like, if what we basically have to do is wait for Beatrix to testify, so we're going to basically be on the run for 2 weeks, which even Alex is like, hey, you avoided the mob for like, you know, a long period of time, which she did, but she probably did leave out the part where like they constantly caught up to her multiple times until literally Beatrix got the drop on her at the end of episode 2 of the season. So, but yeah, that at first I was like, there's no way that's, but he calls out Alex, he's like, Oyster Girl. I was like, what's that about? Which I'm like, because I was like, that's definitely, and feel bad for that guy because he literally gets beat up. Hey, you got to appreciate, you know, the public being like, oh, these two women are running away saying that guy's trying to hurt them. It makes you think of that SpongeBob thing. It's like, he's going to kick my butt. What do we have to teach? How many times we got to teach you this lesson, old man? I love the youth. Because I was watching something recently, I was listening to a podcast where someone referenced specifically that episode, so that's why it's like super fresh in my mind. But it had the same energy as that. So you kind of feel bad for the guy getting beat up in this episode, but you're also like, hey, you gotta give it up to that crowd for like, you know, hey, you're sticking up for somebody. But it's also like, there's also the complicated thing of, vigilante justice like that ain't really cool. It's fine and dandy, and you know, we can side with it in our heads. Morally, legally, that's a other thing. And, you know, this isn't a comic book or a movie. So the whole, like, superhero vigilanteism, like, it's cool in movies and stuff. It gets a little real life. But either way. So now Charlie's like, hey, we got away from the iguana. Let's go to Beatrix. I'm like, it's probably still not a good idea, but we'll see how this plays out. Back at the FBI, Luca's trying to make a point to the higher-ups. You need to tell me where Beatrix is. And he's trying to explain, like, yo, I think the iguana, this, and this. And they're not listening to him because basically there's 3 different people in the FBI who have pieces to... it's a code that basically is a piece to where Beatrix is, and they don't want to give up either part of it because no group or one individual agent should know where Beatrix is. Makes sense. She's such a top level witness that you gotta keep that hush hush. But I love that, you know, Luca tries to big up Charlie. It's like, yo, she's so good. You know, she's like Sherlock Holmes of like the stubbornness of like, what would she say? Like, I think he said like a pit bull, a bulldog at lunchtime or something like that. Because it's like, she is really good at her job. He's like, she could do a better job running the FBI than any of us because she is very much like Sherlock Holmes, this and that. And the fact is that, you know, she's really capable. You know, I mean, he didn't really go into it, but the whole shtick of being like, yo, I am legitimately a human lie detector. And she's really good at solving crime. She could put a lot of people to shame. But also, Luca didn't bother being like, yeah, pretty much all the like cases I got massive credit for that worked up, you know, led to my career increasing to the extent that it has. It's based almost entirely around Charlie. So didn't really say that, but they laughed once they saw like that random picture of Charlie because it's like, oh, like she looks so unassuming, but it's like that's always the thing that disarms people. Once again, there's like no point in telling them about her whole shtick because, for one, no one's going to believe you because no one's going to believe Charlie's shtick until she does it in front of them. But either way, the moment they get to Beatrix's place, I'm like, okay, what's going to go on? Especially when Charlie tries to knock at the door. But first and foremost, I was like, they're focusing on the gum. I was like, did I miss something there? What's going on there? I was like, is something in this moment going to tell us that that's not Alex? That's really the iguana? And boy, oh boy, how right I was in that moment. Because I love the reveal where it's just like, oh, Alex hits the horn. And at the same time, Charlie thought, she's like, Alex. I was like, wait. At first, I was like, did she realize, like, oh my God, is the iguana going to come after Alex? But it's like, no, you should go after Beatrix. So why would you go after Alex? I mean, I guess she's a loose end, but still goes. Alex is going. Charlie checks out the place. Literally every agent watching the place is dead. I was like, Jesus. I was like, how did the iguana get here before you? Like, I mean, first of all, like, how would they even, like, they would have to have followed you here, but you were having a conversation about, you figured out where Beatrix was in the car. So I'm like, how did this happen? And it's not until like that Alex thing happens where I'm like, oh my God, it's not Alex, it's the iguana. They disguise himself. And then the twist is, no, it's Alex. It's always been Alex. I was like, oh shit, that's a good twist. I did not see that. Like I said, I was just assuming that the iguana disguise. I was like, wait, so what was else with the guy who disguised himself as Justin Theroux's character? I was like, what was that? Then I was like, wait, was that just a separate killer? And it sure as hell was. I thought that was so masterfully done and revealed. And it's also pretty sick and twisted the way she went through the trouble of setting up the whole like, oh no, I'm in danger. Actually, it's me holding up the gun to my own head. I thought that was beautifully done. I legitimately feel bad for Beatrix, considering like everything she went through. I mean, she lost her and Richard Kind's character were married, right? I think they were married. I don't think they were just dating. I think they were married. Lost him under the circumstances that she did. Went into witness protection. Then finds out her son was brutally murdered. And then now she ended up getting taken out. It's like we saw like Beatrix wasn't too bad, and it's like honestly there was a little bit of a connection between her and Charlie. So Charlie kind of blames herself because it's like, right, I literally led the killer right to your doorstep. So this is why I want to bring up something kind of from last episode. Someone had commented that they really did not like last episode. Their words were like, I think they were saying last episode was like the worst episode of the series. And the thing they were hung up on was specifically, how did the killer know, like the iguana know about Charlie? Because I didn't really think about it at the time, because it is set up to be like, yo, the iguana is playing this by ear. And it's like, how would the iguana know to go after Charlie to get close to Beatrix? I'm so curious how that person feels. Like, I'm not trying to call them out or anything. I'm legitimately asking because I was like, oh, that was going through my mind when I was watching the episode. I'm like, I'm not saying I'm curious if this retroactively made last episode better for them, or is it still the same? Like, maybe they just in general didn't enjoy the episode. This answers those questions they had, sure, but they might still not enjoy the episode as a whole. I hope that person comments again, because I'd love to know. Not just like, even if you're like, oh, it didn't change anything, I still hated the episode, that's perfectly fine. I'm just so curious, like, whether this twist made you feel better, because that was something they were hung up on. I don't know if that's the one thing that made them hate the episode. It's probably like I didn't like the episode in general. I just didn't think it was good. And then this thing was the thing I was confused about. But now we have an answer to that. Once again, even having that answer might not have changed like how they felt about the episode. I'm going on a bit of a diatribe, but I'm like legitimately, I am curious how that person felt about the episode this time. But yeah, getting to it, I was like, that's that. And even Charlie says like, yo, that's a lot. Like, she's like, don't you think that's kind of like super convoluted? Like, the fact is you went through so much just for a mob hit? Because that's the thing. She's been laying the groundwork since episode 9. And God knows how much time has passed between episode 9 and 10 and 10 to 11. Obviously 11 to 12, it's only been like a couple hours since the end of 11 to where we are present at this point in time in the story of 12. But still, it's like, that's a lot of groundwork getting close to trial. Hell, you were literally mixed up in a murder investigation. Once again, I think the boat gun killer from Haven kind of was like part of some investigations and stuff like that in multiple facets of that season. Once again, I'm trying to dance around it because I don't want to spoil it, because it's a really good twist and it's a really good season. It's a really great show all around. I highly recommend it. My point is, like, I was just bringing that up by comparison because I think they did a slightly similar thing with the killer was there, part of the investigation. And, that's kind of sometimes, killer goes right back to the scene of the crime and stuff. But either way, I went on my diatribe, but we learned about Alex. Like, the fact is that Charlie's like, wow, I never knew you were out there. The one person who could lie to me. And even I was like, oh my God. Because the thing that they were focusing on the gum for, it's like, I completely missed it. Like I said, I figured the gum was a detail, but the detail was that Alex is apparently allergic to cinnamon. And it's like, oh, and even it's like, wow, I told many mundane lies. It was so hard to keep track of them. Who knew gum would be my undoing? I was like, wow. And she's been lying to you since day one. That is how you introduce a villain too, to be like, yo, there's a crack in the armor, because up until this point, Charlie has been undefeated. I mean, it's going to be a weird reference. It's like the word of God in Preacher. Like, you think that power is so broken. It's like, there's nothing that can beat it. There are ways around it. Basically, if you can make yourself not be able to hear anymore, you basically get around that ability. As long as you're deaf, that power can't affect you because you have to physically hear the words from Genesis. Well, from Jesse using Genesis' power, the word of God. Once again, if you don't know Preacher, that reference will mean nothing to you. But like the thing is, what I mean is like Charlie's weakness is typically like if someone phrases something just the right way without like telling an actual lie, people know how to dance around her ability once they know. And even if they don't know, sometimes they luck out and dance around it unintentionally. But Charlie, once again, doesn't even have to look at you. She can just know when you're lying. And it's so interesting because they brought that up multiple times. Of like, is she reading the person? She's like, no, it's just this. But you take what Alex said, the iguana rather. The iguana's like, no, it took everything. I had to change certain things. I had to do this. I had to do that. Like things you would do to potentially beat like a lie detector or something. It's not the exact same things. You actually had to go above and beyond. But it's like, even the iguana's like, there are moments I had to be like, I beat you, but I know I'm only barely beating you. Like her power is that good. It's so fascinating to know. Like it wasn't easy. Even being a pathological liar, like because you can make the argument that Ali Shawkat's character from episode 9 was a pathological liar, but Charlie easily saw through her. It's like you are above and beyond, like literally shifting stuff about yourself, concentrating to the nth degree to literally just barely beat what is essentially Charlie's superhuman ability. So it's so fascinating. And we find out that, right, she's killed a lot of people. She's like kings, queens, counts, countesses, barons. It's like even a pope. And she's, whoa. You bumped off a pope? It's like, no. It's like, oh, good. I'm glad to know you have a line. It's like, well, the only reason why I didn't is because the Vatican didn't bother meeting my quota, my fee. So that's the only reason why I haven't taken a pope off the do list. But, you know, after doing so many different jobs, especially after her one in Alaska, which is the one that they said was like the last time the iguana was heard of from, she found a certain sensation she'd never felt before, bored, because she had done everything. That job in particular, I mean, literally having to fight a polar bear, which we see at her place, she's made him into a skin rug. It took me a second when they were focused on this polar bear. I was like, all right, she fought that polar bear to death. Right. That's why they're focusing on that so much. And she's kissing and being like, oh, like, because she's in a happy mood at that point because she got told by... was it Cedric? Is that the person? I can't remember their name. Her handler, who was like, yo, who set her up with this job. First and foremost, going after Hasp, knowing she's under the FBI, there's no way to get to her. The only person with a connection that can easily like tie this all together would be Charlie, who is a human lie detector. And that's what, for the first time in a while, the iguana felt alive. Like, oh my God, that's so cool. That's what this was all about. Why they went such a convoluted route to get to Beatrix just for a mob hit, because it wasn't just a mob hit. It was the ultimate challenge. The coffee incident in episode 9 was supposed to be a dry run to see, hey, can I actually do this? And I did it. And you continued to do it over and over again. Once again, even luring Charlie into a false sense of security of like, hey, I'm your gym buddy and we solved a murder together. That's all kinds of effed up because Charlie's been like alone for the most part, you know. Once again, found some companionship, but said companion, Bill, was murdered. So, you know. So she's kind of been alone. She's had her good buddy on the radio, but it's different. She actually had a friend. And the last friend she had, like pure like friend through and through, was her best friend Natalie, who was murdered a while back. So, you know, it felt good for Charlie. And she even said, and even Alex touches, well, the iguana touches on, the fact is Charlie, like, it's so interesting that Charlie says, like, she likes people. And it's like, do you really? People lie to you all the time. And that's just a sad reality that Charlie just kind of had to contend with. But it's like, yeah, you're a goody good two shoes. Like, the fact is, I was researching you, which I hope all those photos were just legitimately behind the scenes photo. One was with her and Cynthia Erivo in episode 1. There was one from episode 2. It was her and Sherry Cola, sorry, Jesus. And then like the baseball mascot from episode 5. And, oh God, I forgot the character's name, but he was like the main good guy in episode, was that 8 of this season? And, the iguana getting satisfaction from this, it was almost kind of twisted when, like, she opens, like, Charlie's legs and gets behind her. It's like, oh, the play. I mean, she's like, not physical pleasure, because I kind of have no interest in it. And Charlie's like, oh, well, kind of a shame, huh? Because probably having physical pleasure might take away from, like, your psychotic, psychopathic tendencies of being the hitman that you are. Even bringing in the guy who pretended to be Justin Theroux's character. That guy was a second hitman she hired, because she's the one that was on the other end of the phone hiring him just to frame her. And then when he tried to drug her, she slit his throat and buried his butt, like, threw his body in the water. You're just like, and it's kind of like this twisted thing of, like, he died not knowing he was just a piece to the puzzle. Like, oh, you're just a means to an end to kind of see my plan through. You're just, you're part of this very convoluted plan. And he died not knowing, like, oh, you're the second best to me, the best of the best. Oh yeah, we also got an answer about the whole thing with the oyster guy being like, oyster girl. It's because she legitimately was like, well, I had to think on the fly. She cut a guy's head and then kneed him in the nuts. And she knew that would be the thing that would kind of force Charlie's hand to take them. Which is so funny, because I think it was Alex herself that suggested, like, right, the killer, or it was either her or Charlie that was like, oh, basically the iguana's going to force our hand to make us take them to Beatrix, which, in fact, she did, so on both fronts. So took the iguana straight to Beatrix, but also the iguana forced her hand to do so. So it was true on both fronts. At the end of the day, Charlie ends up saying it sucks and it breaks her heart and it stings, but she's happy that it stings, because for her, it's like, it proves that I'm still human. I have my humanity. That means I'll never end up like you, which, obviously for the iguana, it's like, actually, I love this. I loved our whole tit for tat situation, like this kind of secret game of cat and mouse. It's like, I loved it. You were like, you made me feel alive again for the first time in a while. It's a shame I'm gonna have to kill him. Charlie's like, hey, if you do this, you'll never have, like, a great opponent out there. And it's like, oh, I guess I will go back to being bored again. But luckily, she had burned something on the stove, and now the fire alarm goes off. The cops are there. Basically, the FBI gets informed, so all hands are on deck. Charlie gets taken as a hostage. I'm like, how is this going to end? I'm like, I'd assume it end with Alex dying, but the way she was saying, like, yo, it's the end of the road. She's like, that's not how my story. I'm like, is she going to take herself out? So I didn't know how that was going to go. And then they end up going, funny enough, to the Grand Canyon, the canyon that's named after the Grand Canyon. I love that they referenced that earlier in the episode. Alex brings that up, and now it's like, oh, we go there. So it's like, yeah, they were already setting the stage for that. And the moment they're heading to the canyon, I'm like, yo, are we going to Thelma and Louise this bitch? And it's like, seemed like it might be. But then Alex is like, okay, well, because Charlie's like, if you do this, shouldn't you give me a chance to survive? Because that way your greatest threat, like your nemesis, could be out there. And she's like, all right, bet. All right, let's play a game of two truths and a lie. If you get it right, you live and you get to be my nemesis out there in the world. Or if you lie, we both die, essentially. Because the thing she was saying was, you've lied to me while I was unaware that you were tricking me. Now that I know you're a liar, you have to give me a chance to see, can I catch you when I know who you are for real. Like, you caught me off guard because I wasn't expecting you to blindside me like that. I wasn't expecting you to but now that I know that you can lie to me, I'm looking at you now. I see you for you. So let's see if you can beat me, when it comes to this. And Charlie wins, but the problem is her car is a piece of shit that it is, and the car goes off the edge. And I'm like, and then it says to be continued. I'm like, what? And no shot you did that. And then I didn't check the timer of the episode until it faded to black and then came back on. I was like, okay, are you going to say put some subtitle up we're fucking with you? I checked the time. I'm like, no, there's 7 minutes left in this episode. Maybe a minute and something of that is definitely credits, but... And then it rewinds and we find out Charlie slipped out at the last second. And immediately I'm like, there's no way Alex didn't too. I'm like, there's no way. And we see later on when Taylor Schilling's character goes to check and it's there's no body in there. So the iguana's definitely out there. I mean, granted, you don't have to worry about her being in disguise, but she's still alive and well. You know what this also reminds me of? I'm up. Me and my references. It reminds me of like the iguana and Charlie remind me of Sean and Yang from Psych. If you've never seen Psych, this ain't really a spoiler because I'm dancing around specifics, but it's a serial killer and detective type of relationship, just like Sherlock to Moriarty, as Alex was saying, right? It's kind of a similar thing where like the killer took such a fascination in Sean because Sean was the only one that ever caught them. I mean, I love Psych in general, but the yin yang stuff is like it's basically my favorite arc in that show. It's such a good arc. It's a season. It kind of does this where basically it's a serial killer arc that like spans across the season finale. So it's like seasons, I think, was it technically, I think it's 3, 4, and 5, and technically it all concludes in a musical in season 6, if I remember correctly. So it's just really interesting. The musical isn't the season finale. The musical takes place somewhere in the middle of the season 6, if I remember correctly. But 3, 4, and 5, their finales are all part of like the yin yang killer arc, which is really interesting. It's probably like some of my favorite episodes of the show. But yeah, my whole point is like there's kind of a similar parallel, especially with Alex still being out there. So it's just really interesting. And so, luckily, Charlie got out the car, grabbed onto some roots before she went off the cliff completely. Luckily, Luca came and saved her. It's like, cool, that's great. It's like, oh, she's like, look at what 2 people under 5'5" are able to do. He's like, I'm 5'7". She's like, I'll allow it. But then, like, Luca breaks the news to her. It's like, yeah, regardless of it all, you technically aided and abetted a serial killer who then proceeded to kill a pretty big, like, witness. So Charlie's is like if it's not one thing, it's another. She's not running from Sterling Senior, and then like running from Beatrix and the 5 families. Now she's running from the literal feds. You're like, well, shit. And poor Charlie, she's kind of breaking down a little bit because it's a lot. It's like, it's like Luca helping you out, trying to give you a head start. He even gives you your jacket because he's like, oh, you look a little cold. He's like, oh, the wind. He's getting teary-eyed because he's like, I'm trying to give you a head start, but the next time I see you, I will arrest you. And Charlie looks at him because she knows he's not lying. This is one of the times he isn't lying to her, so she knows, like, yeah, I have to go. I have to disappear. It sucked because like she found a comfortable place to stay. For the first time she's put down roots in a long time in episode 9 was the start of this, and then like she has to leave now because of all of this. Not how I expected this whole arc to end the way it did. Well, kind of did, because I thought Beatrix would end up dead and basically the 5 families would come after Charlie. I don't think they'd have a reason to anymore, considering like Beatrix is dead and now like the Fed's case is completely now. But I don't know if they'd have not unless Charlie would be considered a loose end that could technically testify, but I don't think she has anything worth testifying against the 5 families. They'd probably want Charlie dead because maybe they don't know if Beatrix told her anything, maybe. I know Alex is once again still out there, so it's like my adversary's out there. I can't wait to challenge Charlie again, But they now have a face to associate with the iguana, so that kind of ruins her complete and utter anonymity, but doesn't mean she can't still disappear and still come at Charlie from a different angle. That's the challenge of it all now. Like, I'm still alive. Charlie doesn't know that she's still alive right now, so she could still get blindsided, but also it's like Charlie knows her power can be beat, so that does potentially change things going forward. Charlie, like her relationship with her power, it's like, I know my power can be beat, but the thing is, I'm probably going to be doubly on edge going forward, so it's just going to be interesting to see Charlie's relationship with her lie detector going forward, now knowing it can in fact be beat. You just have to be a complete another sociopath and really, really push yourself to do it. But either way, she makes her way to the highway and she sees the dog and no one's picking her up. I got too giddy when I saw the truck because I was like, no way, no way. I was like, is it Good Buddy? It's got to be Good Buddy. And it turned out not to be the case. I was like, oh, that would have been a perfect opportunity. I mean, the thing is, like, what are the chances that it would be Good Buddy? But still, like, I was hoping it would be because, he's a truck driver. I was like, oh, is it going to be Steve Buscemi? But it's not. It's not. I was like, ah, damn, that would have been great. So she's on her way to, was it Wichita? Was it Wichita? Might have been Wichita. She's on her way to, but holy shit. That is a way to end off a season. So now, once again, Charlie's back on the road, not settling down. It's one thing when you're having to run from illegal organizations like the mob or a gangster like Sterling. Now it's like, cool, I'm literally running from the government organization known as the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So it makes you wonder, like, would we see a lot more Luca potentially in the future? Probably not. Just every once in a while we cut back to it. But it's like, just like basically you couldn't stay anywhere for 4 hours. Like if you made a call, used your bank card or anything for 4 hours, basically it wouldn't be too long until what's his face caught up with you, Benjamin Bratt's character. It wouldn't be too long, right? So the feds are going to be a lot more on you, considering like the litany of federal crimes that are being levied against you. You're going to have to do everything you can to potentially, like, how do you even go about clearing your name in this regard? I guess the only way would be like ultimately bringing down such a prolific hitman like the Iguana. It's only means that probably could help clear her name, but I mean, there's probably a lot that would be involved in it. Like, she'd probably have to help take down the 5 families and the Iguana to potentially make her square with the FBI, but who knows? I did look it up before starting this recording, whether or not there will be a season 3. There has been no announcements yet. Obviously, the episode literally just aired, well, probably technically. Nope, still technically today at the time of recording this. It's not midnight yet, so. But yeah, I hope we get a season 3. Obviously, this show is well received. It just really comes down to like viewership, like are enough people watching it. Like reception wise, like people really enjoy the show. It's a lot of fun, a lot of interesting guest stars, a lot of quirky mysteries and stuff like that, and situations Charlie finds herself in. So I'm excited, for a potential season 3. I'd love to see what happens. I'd be so curious to know, like, would they do a potential 3rd and final season, or would they just go like, no, we'll kind of take, I mean, with the nature of the show, you can kind of go on as long as you want to, as long as like the numbers are good and Natasha still wants to keep doing it and Ryan Johnson feels comfortable continuing, like, because I don't know, like, I know he's directed some episodes, obviously he created the show, but like, I don't know how involved he is on like a day-to-day basis. And I've never actually looked into that too deeply. So, like I said, I just don't know like how actively involved with the show he is. So it could be a thing of, both of them, as long as they're comfortable going as long as they want to with the show, and the numbers reflect it. Like, as long as the show's doing well, it'll probably go on as long as either one of them want it to. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not necessarily asking for like the next season, for a 3rd season to be a final season, but I mean, if they wanted to end it anywhere, this would be an interesting setup with like a pretty deadly main antagonist like the Iguana out and about, and Charlie being hunted by the FBI. Pretty great circumstances to potentially set up a 3rd final season. But also, once again, I'm not pushing for that. I'm just saying narratively you could go down that route, but you could also just be like, fuck it, show goes as long as we want it to, and we're allowed to. So I'm 3rd season, whether it's a final season or just another new season, hopefully it's just more so a new season rather than a final season. But I'd love to see what they do with a season 3 storyline wise, also what cases and guest stars we get. I'm sure there's a lot of fun there's a lot of actors I think would be so neat to see them in this show and see what characters and circumstances they would find themselves in. But yes, I have run my mouth off a lot and long enough. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.